Hi, and welcome to Have You Made It, the podcast where I talk to Northern creatives about what they make and how they make it. This is episode 4, and I'm talking to Lucy Harbron, who is a music journalist and writer from Stockton-on-tees. She's from the Northeast, but she does live in London, and we talk a lot about that, about why she feels like she has to live in London to do the job that she has, the changes that would need to be made up north in order for her to ever even consider going back to where she's from. But she also talks a lot about her connection with the North and being Northern. We also talk a lot about the arts in general. She's clearly such a lover of music and movies and writing and poetry. She's a very poetic person. She's also just lovely to listen to, and she was great to chat to as well. So I'm really excited to share this conversation with Lucy Harbron, so enjoy. Today I have a writer with me from Stockton. By day she works as a music, film and art journalist at Far Out magazine. But outside of that, she's working on her debut novel and writing creative pieces, often based on the topics of longing, memory, and trauma. I'm very excited to talk to Lucy Harbron today. Welcome, Lucy.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's okay. I'm so happy you're here. How are you doing?
Good, yeah. How about you?
Yeah, all good, thank you. I'm very appreciative of you being here because I know you've just got back from a trip overseas, like a few days ago, a week ago.
Yeah, I think a week ago, but I feel like my body is still kind of like, what's going on?
Your body's still there.
Yeah, and like the whole time I was there, my body was in the UK, so it was really great. I like got rid of the jet lag on like the last day of my trip.
You was in New York, right?
I was, yeah, it was like a trip I've like wanted to do my entire life. So I was like, finally, I will do it.
Oh, that's amazing. How long was you there for?
Only 6 days. So it was kind of in and out. It felt really weird going for such a short amount of time, like given like how far away it is. I think my only concept of it was like going to Florida as a kid and being in Florida, going to Disneyland for like 2 weeks or something. But no, it was good. Like 6 days was a good amount of time. It's like it's smaller than London, so you can kind of get things done pretty quick.
Yeah. It's actually smaller than London. I didn't know that.
I think it is like in terms of square footage.
Really?
I could be making it up.
Did you go? So you didn't go for work, then you went for play.
I just went for play, which was nice to actually have some like take some time off was crazy. But
Did you go? You went with your friends?
yeah, and I went for my birthday, so it was like a nice way to spend a birthday.
Oh my God, that's so, I'm so jealous.
Oh, it's so good.
I'm actually going in October time, and I've not been. I went when I was a kid. Like,
Mm.
it was like the year after 9/11, and I think like the whole city has like really changed
Yeah.
since then. Like, I think when I went, it was like my mum's cousin's like wedding or something random, and I can't really remember it. So I'm really excited to.
Yeah.
I'll have to get some recommendations from you.
Good for them. It's so I think it'd be so nice to go back as an adult. Like obviously I imagine as a kid you didn't really get to appreciate this.
All I remember is like the massive Toys R Us in Times Square, and it had like a piano that you can walk on, like on the floor, like a keyboard.
Yeah, like the one that's in the films.
I remember that. I remember going to Macy's, getting like a little plastic, like little Macy's bag thing. Like that's all I really remember. So no, yeah, I'm excited to go back.
That was the stuff that really impressed me. And like my friends were really baffled by it because I loved the really tacky stuff. Like I loved going to a diner. I loved going to Coney Island because it really reminded me of like Seaton or like Redcar back home. Felt really familiar to be by like kind of a crappy seaside.
Yeah, I bet that's so cool to see that. I'd love to go to Coney Island when I'm there.
I'd recommend doing that if you have the time. It's like it's a trek, but it's fun when you're there.
Yeah. What else did you get up to? Like, what was your favorite bit, do you think?
Oh my God. I loved all the galleries. Like it was so nice giving myself time to like wander around the galleries and just kind of like I love a good walk around. Like it's so nice to just kind of mooch and see what's going on. And then on the night of my birthday, we stayed at the Chelsea Hotel, which is like this really iconic hotel that loads of writers and musicians lived at. So like the night of my birthday, we just didn't even leave this hotel. I was just like sat there in the bar, like, oh my God.
Is the Chelsea Hotel the one that like Patti Smith and everyone stayed at?
Yeah. So
Okay,
I've
okay.
like that was kind of what I wrote my like uni dissertation on. So I've been like obsessed with it for so long. Like when the taxi pulled up outside, I like got out of the taxi and cried.
Oh no, that's so cute.
The doorman was like staring at me, like, but he was smiling and he was like, "We see this a lot."
That's really, oh wow. Well, it is a really iconic place. So
I was just so
yeah.
moved.
You wrote your dissertation on it. What was your degree in?
Did an English degree and I wrote my dissertation on like all of the writers who had lived at the hotel, which was like just a really sneaky way to like not really do an English dissertation. Like I just didn't want to do like Shakespeare or anything too classic. I wanted to kind of write about music, so I made sure I could do that. But it was really fun, and like I've just kind of been obsessed with it. I was obsessed with the Chelsea before then, so then being able to do the dissertation was like big time, like special interest. And then even like in my job now, like any opportunity to bring out one of the stories that I like learned during my dissertation, like I'm gonna do that.
Well, you might as well, all that time it takes to write a dissertation.
Exactly. Like
You may as well do it.
information I have about this one location, I need to find a way to use it.
And now you've been.
Exactly. I'm now a real specialist.
You really have. If you was to go on, what's that question time? Do you reckon if you was to
Mhm.
go on question time, you do it about the Chelsea Hotel?
Probably, yeah.
Or do you do it about a person who stayed there?
Oh my God. Maybe the hotel. I feel like I've got broad knowledge. I feel like the Chelsea Hotel or like The Simpsons. Too, too.
Two extremes. I was trying to actually rack my brain and looking back on my TikTok to try and figure out because I go through phases of using TikTok to be honest, and
Yeah.
I was in a phase of I don't know, just trying to find like just girls around the similar age to me who were like into similar things I was into, and I came across yours. I can't remember how this happened,
Mm.
and then I think you'd actually posted about something that you'd wrote for Gigwise back when you worked at Gigwise. And I think that's how I started to follow you. And I actually really love the way you post on Instagram because it's such like a nice combination of like work and play because you post about all of your work on there, but then you also post a lot of your own creative writing and your own personal writing. And then
Yeah.
you also just post like you just having like a great time. So
Yeah.
I really love the way you create it. And yeah, I just wanted to ask about that. And also, like, I know you wrote some stuff while you was in New York and you posted about that.
Yeah. I think like social media is so interesting and like trying to find a balance, especially when you are like older and like have a career, trying to balance like personal stuff, work stuff, and like my own writing is has been weird. And like I know a lot of people will have like a professional account, but I think I've always been like, but everything's so mixed up. Like the stuff I write outside of work like is very personal. And even like some of the stuff I get to write at work is like deeply personal. Like I work in like music and film, like everything's opinion based. But then I also think like my relationship to social media is like undeniably shaped by the fact that like I grew up in like the heyday of social media. Like my life would be completely different if I wasn't like on Tumblr when I was 12. Like my whole life has been shaped by internet experiences and like I think especially my career, like I'm so aware that I wouldn't be doing this job if it wasn't for like 2012 Tumblr. Just like feels like a really weird thing to admit, but I think I've never really got all that cynical about social media because I'm so grateful for it. And like
Yeah.
I've always been having fun on there. And like yeah, so the kind of separation has never really occurred to me in a way because everything feels so connected. But then I think I do go through phases where I become very shy about it. Like I don't, it's less like shy about sharing my work and more shy about the fact of like, I think it's a very classic thing that like, especially women feel of like, I don't want it to come across like I'm bragging or like I'm super
Yeah.
like up myself or like, especially when I'm posting more kind of creative or personal writing. I think I worry that people see it as me just being like really overly revealing rather than me being like, I'm really proud of this bit of writing I did,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
again is like definitely a thing that like women face. Like I listened to this podcast and it was like Phoebe Waller-Bridge or like maybe it was Phoebe Waller-Bridge's sister talking about how like so many people like ask her if Fleabag is real and she's like no like I made it up.
Yeah.
Like people don't seem to realize that women can also make things up. Like
Yeah, like we have imaginations, you know.
so even like my Substack is like a lot of it is very personal, but at the same time, like it is a piece of creative writing. It's not like I'm on my Instagram story being like, read my diary. Like
Yeah.
here's everything. But sometimes it can end up feeling like that and I get kind of shy about it and then have to like remind myself that like it's not that and like it's good to be proud of what you're doing.
Yeah, 100%. This is something that Actually, the last episode I did before this one was with an actor called Martha, and she was saying the exact same thing about being a woman and feeling like having to remind herself to talk about accomplishments or work. And like, I 100% agree with you.
Mhm.
Like, it just feels like you're always, as like a woman, you are just a bit like, don't want to be seen to be showing off. I also think it's quite a northern thing too, because like
Mhm.
I feel like Northerners are just a bit like more like, I don't know, people don't want to see other people bragging. And I remember
Yeah.
like at school, like people would take the piss out of people for like talking about things they were doing or like
Mhm.
showing off, but that isn't what it is. I think it's like so if you're a Northern woman, I feel like it's just either
It's like double.
even worse. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's very much not in the northern way to be like braggy, but I also think like it's almost like the northern way is like to be the like underdog and to not want to be seen like you're doing well or like proud of what you're doing in a way. Like it feels weird
Yeah.
to celebrate your achievements, but I think yeah, like especially in like creative fields, it's like if you're not going to do that, no one else is, and like it's such a big part of putting yourself out there and like
It
you
is.
have to get comfortable with it, which does feel weird a lot of the time.
Yeah. It's like I always say it's like getting over the cringe of it, the original cringe feeling that you have.
Yeah.
Like literally everybody has it, so you've just kind of got to get over it.
Yeah, exactly. Especially on social media, like with like TikTok and stuff, like it feels really embarrassing a lot of the
Yeah.
time. But it's like, how else are you gonna post things? And I think I do, like you say, like on Instagram, I have this weird thing where like I kind of love that my account is like this strange little archive of my life. Like I've never been able to bring myself to like go back and delete stuff. So it's like if you really wanted to, you could like go on my Instagram and see what I was getting up to at like 17. But like I still have like my blog and that's still on Google.
Yeah.
To be found.
The
Again,
archives of Lucy all the way back.
I feel like I probably at some point should have gone back and like made that private, but I like can't bring myself to do it because I'm like, this is like years of my life, but also like years of my work. Like even that blog, I'm like, if I delete this blog, like I'm deleting such a important like cornerstone of how I got here that I just can't
Yeah.
do it as much as like if you like Google my name, it doesn't take that long to give you like a picture of me from when I was 16 and I thought I was going to be a fashion blogger.
Is that what the blog? I was going to ask what was the
Honestly,
blog?
yeah, for a brief period of my time, I really thought I'd be a fashion blogger, but it didn't last long and it didn't work out. It's quite funny to look back on.
I love that. Yeah, but I feel like who hasn't thought about that? I think
Exactly.
about stuff like that all the time. Even now, I'm like, oh, maybe like we could do this. Like, there's. I
Yeah.
feel like when you're have like if you're in some form of like creative field or you enjoy a lot of like creative things, it just feels like the possibilities are endless with what you could do or what you can purse.
Yeah. And I think like especially like I say it's like Tumblr 2012. Like I think like I don't think I wanted to be a fashion blogger. I think it was more just like the people I admired wrote about fashion, but I couldn't grasp then that what I liked and that wasn't the fashion, it was the writing and it was the like
Yeah.
the way they were like presenting their feelings sort of thing. And like a lot
Hmm.
of the big like Tumblr girls or even like Alexa Chung, I really admired her like voice and brand. So I think for a while I was like, what I need to be doing is fashion because
Yeah.
I had never considered music really. Like I didn't grow up in like a musical family. Like I loved music, but I had never once considered that I could actually have a career in it. So it's like I think I just didn't really know where I was going to be yet.
When did you realize that you could go
Yeah.
into a career that involved music?
Like super, super late. Like really, really
Really?
late. In that like I always feel bad or like shy saying it around like other music journalists, but like I had genuinely never considered doing this job because I didn't think I could. Like I think it had been this like distant dream. Like from I always loved music, like even though my parents weren't super into music, like I always was. And then when I was like 17, 18, like started going to gigs like around the north and then went to loads of gigs at uni, went to loads of gigs like anywhere I could, was always kind of obsessed with being around music. Even looking back, like when I think about things like my dissertation, like I was finding ways to bring music in. I thought that like music journalism as like an industry in the way that I could grasp it in terms of like the film Almost Famous or like books about like enemy, like I didn't think it existed like that anymore. And I didn't know how to get into it. I didn't know anyone who worked in it. Like I had absolutely zero concept of where to even begin. So then it like didn't really happen until lockdown, where like I'd started a magazine back when I was like 15, 16, and like music occasionally came into it, but not massively. Whereas in lockdown, when like not much else was happening, I wanted to like change it more into like a blog than anything else. I think by that point I was like obsessed with like being around people who made music because I was always like, wow. So it kind of just became a bit of music blog. And I think with the added time, I was like, how do people do this? And then I just kind of like tried my luck. Like I tried my luck first with a story for my dissertation, was sending that out places, and then just kind of like luckily stumbled into it. I feel like with any kind of creative thing, it's just like banging on doors and occasionally a door will open. Or like not even like this didn't even feel like banging on doors. It felt like leaning on a door. I emailed Jessie, who was the editor of Gigwise at the time. I was kind of surprised when the door opened for me. And it was a case of like, I can put you on a list and you can try and jump on a few album reviews, but I'd never done it before. So I was like, how does it all work? And then even still, never ever considered being able to do it as a job. Didn't even consider being able to get paid for it. Classic kind of music journalism, but like again, any creative industry where there's like no money. But later down the line, the door luckily seemed to open for me. Like I was working a different job, which I guess was slightly music associated, but I was working in social media.
Mm-hmm.
And then it feels really weird to say, but it's like I got fired and it was like the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah.
Maybe not that, but like I got fired and it was like it sounds really like woo, but like something aligned in that like
Yeah.
I've been writing a lot for like a bunch of different magazines at that point. I'd moved to London for this job. I got fired. I messaged Jessie being like, does Gigwise ever hire? She was like, no. Then a week later, she was like, we're going to hire someone. Like, do you want to have an interview? Like, it was kind of perfect in the end. But then it was kind of weird because when I took the job at Gigwise, I was like, oh God, I thought I'd have like a bit more time to be like fun employed. But I didn't. I
You
was like,
didn't. You had a week.
yeah. So it was like complete accident. I'd never really considered being able to have that job until it was my job. I knew I wanted to be a writer in some form. I think it just took a long time for the confidence to be like, I'm going to be a writer or a journalist and not just like write captions for things.
Mm-hmm.
But then also
Yeah.
like, yeah, like it took me a long time to like marry my interests and my work, which I just didn't know I could do before.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's like really inspiring though, I feel as well. Because I do feel like people get to their season, they get into a job. Like I had a similar kind of route. Like I really loved like I did French at uni. I ended up getting like a marketing job, but the only reason I got that was because it was like a French speaking role at like an agency. And then I kind of fell into, but I always loved writing and I would do some like copywriting freelance and things like that while I was at uni. And then I ended up being like a copywriter at an agency. It wasn't, it was like SEO content and like stuff like that. Like it was never like creative, right, or anything like particularly creative. But you just fall into it, and like I know so many people where that's happened to. Like they just fall into this job that's like slightly related to a thing that they're interested in, and it's fun and it's a good job and it pays and
Mm.
whatever else. But it's so cool that you always had this passion about music and you've just took a chance and it ended up actually really paying off you, and it's getting fired changed your life really. So it's probably the best. You are right. Like it probably is one of the best things that happened to you because you wouldn't have got the job at Gigwise if that didn't
Mm.
happen. Or
Yeah.
maybe you would have done, but just a different way. But
Exactly. But it's like, it's strange, like you say about the marketing job. I was actually talking to my friend last night, and like, she's from Newcastle, so I feel like she completely gets it. Where like, I was the same after uni. I just kind of like fell into marketing, which I think is like very typical for like, especially like writing when you don't really know what
yeah,
you're going to do and like how to do a writing job. But then I also think there was a level where like, obviously, like, I'm very lucky in that like after uni, if I'd wanted to take a step back and like figure out what I was doing, or like if I hadn't been able to get a job, I'm very lucky in that I could have like gone back to my parents. But I think by the time I was in Sheffield, I was super conscious of like I cannot go back to Stockton, and like I didn't want to, but also it was like the convenience thing of like every when I was in Sheffield to do job interviews in Manchester, which is where I was applying, all I had to pay was like 10 quid on the train. Whereas like to do that from Stockton or Middlesbrough, like every time I went to uni, it would be like 40, 50 quid. Like
Oh, yeah.
it would have made looking for a job like 10 times harder and 10 times more expensive. So I think it was a thing of like I wanted to keep like pushing forward and like not move back home. But then also it's like one of those things where you actually have to consider that stuff because even though it's not geographically that far away, like when you get back up to the northeast, like it's kind of hard to leave again. And I just knew I needed to like take a job, like and like start working, sort of thing.
So there's a few things I want to unpack here. So the idea of not going back to Stockton. So like, did you grow up kind of being like, I don't want to necessarily live here forever? Like, did you
Yeah.
always have this feeling of, I want to go somewhere else for uni
Yeah.
and I want to potentially, like, now you live in London, obviously. So was that always like part of the plan, or like,
Yeah.
what
I
was your
think
feelings around
it
that?
was like, yeah, I think like, especially in the Northeast, I feel like there always seems to be two camps or like two schools of thought where like people like stay or leave. And it's like, I always think about this like Sam Fender song where it's like, leave fast or stay forever. And, like, I think about that a lot. And that, like, I think I grew up in the camp that was like, I've got to get out of here. I won't be able to do anything if I stay here. This town doesn't understand me. I was very much like that, which
Yeah.
is weird because now, like, the older I get, the more connected I feel to home. And like, I feel like it's strange being away, but also feeling like super proud of being from where I'm from. And like, I even have a thing where like I always wish my accent was stronger because I'm now like, I want people to know I'm from the Northeast. But I think, yeah, growing up, I was like, I'm gonna have to leave. And like it's hard because there is definitely still a degree to that where like there isn't a music journalism industry in Stockton and Middlesbrough.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what would it take for you to move back up there? Like, what would it actually take? Because
Yeah.
what jobs are based there? Unless it was like a fully remote job where you could
Yeah.
work from home, but then even necessarily that's not still the best thing if you're in the industry that you're in, because you need
Yeah.
to go to experiences and see things and do things to be able to write.
Exactly. Like I could do my job from there, but it's like the amount you'd miss out on because it is such like a it's like London centric, but just like city centric. But then it's weird in that like the big thing when I started at Gigwise was the fact that I'd just been dropped into this like industry and like it's like the world's most casual industry. Like everyone knows everyone, everyone's friends with everyone. And I suddenly got dropped into this pool where I didn't know anyone because a lot of them had like lived in London since uni or grew up in London or like yeah, whereas I hadn't had that. I was like a complete stranger to everyone, which was like terrifying and like made me feel very insecure for a long time despite knowing I could do the job. Yeah.
So everyone knows each other. People are either not from London, but probably went to uni in London or have lived in London that whole time, the whole time they've basically graduated, or they're from London. So there wasn't that many other Northerners
There's you
around.
you encounter them and like
Yeah.
that's really nice. Like even I've like met people from like Stockton and Middlesbrough where like that's always so nice and you definitely do kind of end up like clinging together. But it's like yeah, I think it's more the weirdness of feeling like you just haven't been in London long enough and like you haven't known people long enough and like it's a really friendly industry. Like there's a level to which it's like it comes down to friendships, which is like at once both really nice and also can make you feel like a complete imposter when you're like new to it and like have to try and be like as socially brave as you are being like career wise, especially for me when it's like like starting at GigWise was like a huge risk. Like I was suddenly jumping into like a complete different career. And then at the same time I was like, oh my God, I've got to make some friends. I've got to like put myself out there in like this world I don't really know. And like even that, it kind of coming back to the thing of like being like northern and shy about bragging about your achievements. It was really hard to like step, almost feel like I was taking like my first steps into this like very tight-knit community and like this industry where like no one knew who I was, but I was like bounding in, being like, hey guys, I'm a deputy editor now. I felt like I'd skipped like 10 steps.
I mean, well, it sounds like Jesse at Gigwise and like the whole you had a great time there. And I remember like reading through your post about when you were working there,
Mm.
and it sounds like you just had the most amazing time. Like maybe it was a little bit alienating at first, but not that wasn't necessarily because of Gigwise. It was just
Mm.
the culture and the industry in general.
Yeah. And I think like I like completely got pushed into the deep end. Like it was like being forged in fire, which was terrifying, but then also was like the best thing that's ever happened to me, realistically. Like I feel like I got this like fast track like crash course in music journalism that like if I hadn't have got that job, I don't know when I would have ever have got. Like, I don't think I would have ended up here, and I don't know if I would have ever really had the opportunity to like get the skills that I've got since if it wasn't a case of just like throwing myself into it.
What do you mean in terms of like throwing yourself in? Like, what kind of things were you having to do when you started at Gigwise?
I'd been doing like freelance journalism where you pitch an idea, you get your assignment, you do the assignment, you hand it in. But then when you're on the like editorial team, you're seeing like the behind the scenes of like how it works, like crafting ideas and helping other people craft them, or like making contacts with people and like setting things up. Like it's a lot more logistical that I know is like incredibly valuable for my like CV or like my career moving forward. Like I had the experience of being able to kind of peer behind the curtain of like an editorial team and be on an editorial team in the way that for a lot of other freelance journalists that would have taken them like years and years and years to get to that point. I was just like very lucky that it was opened up to me so early when realistically I I didn't have the experience. But then I guess like I don't know, I've kind of wondered forever if like all of this literally comes down to like starting a magazine when I was 15. Like yeah, what changed my life? Was it that accidental gigwise job or starting a magazine when you're 15?
Tell us more about Gigwise. You ended up being like the editor in chief there.
Yeah, like again, complete accident. I shouldn't have, that shouldn't have
I
happened.
feel like you're being like you're underselling it. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it may be a little bit of luck, but obviously you were very talented and very good at your job. So
I think it was purely a thing of like Jesse moved on and then everyone looked at me. I was like, and there was only, by that point, there was only me and Jesse. So it was like, it was only going to be me and the bosses. But again, it was like just another thing of like being pushed in and like sink or swim sort of thing. And like, I loved that mostly because it was like, again, just like a very different level of organization when you're completely in control. And then like, again, it was so strange and lovely to feel like I was 15 again and like running my own magazine because I kind of was. Like, obviously, the scale was a lot higher, but it felt like I was only editor in chief, I want to say a year, just under a year before like it kind of fell apart and then I had to move on. But for that year, it was like, yeah, like feeling like my teenage self, but with like a higher budget. And like, no, it wasn't even just kind of like working. Well, it wasn't. It was like I wasn't working with my friends anymore. I was like, I had access to like major musicians and like had the opportunity to do like really big, amazing things. But then it was really nice for it to come down to these same moments of like, literally like designing the layout of a magazine like on my own on my laptop in the same way that I had when I was 15. Like it was
yeah.
really sweet kind of feeling like, oh wait, this is what I wanted to do. Whereas like I think somewhere in the gap between being 15 and like five when I like became editor, I was like what am I doing? I don't really know what I want to do. And then when I was doing it, I was like, ah,
Ah, okay. Yeah. Like that moment of it, this has all like been adding up to something.
mm,
What I was going to talk to you about was like the music journalism, also just any kind of culture journalism in general, I feel,
mm,
especially physical, um, like magazines. When I was younger, I absolutely used to love like collecting like Kerrang and Enemy. Like that was just, I'd always like go into the newsagents and take my money, pocket money, and like buy it, use the posters. And then I stopped buying magazines for years.
mm,
And then when I started realizing that, okay, no what, like the magazine industry is actually really struggling, I like, there was like, that's because of me. I don't even buy magazines anymore. Like, I love magazines and I just don't buy them. So, like, in recent years, like the last, I'd say like 4 years, I've started like subscribing to magazines or like buying the odd one
mm,
here and there, like where I think, oh, that looks like a really good one. So I've got like now like a little collection growing again. I'm not necessarily loyal to one magazine or brand. Like it's usually just there's a mix, and I'm like, oh, okay, that one looks really good this month. Like I'll buy that. But the state of like the magazine industry, like what's been your experience? Like, 'cause obviously you got into it, you perceive you got into it late.
mm.
So yeah, what's it like?
Yeah, it's strange because I rewatched Almost Famous the other day, and I
Yeah.
think like when I watched that when I was younger, I was like, oh my God, like that's like the pinnacle, but also being like, this is what it's gonna be like. That's what it would be like. I would go and tour with bands, and it would be really fun. But like it was interesting watching it now that I work in the industry, in that they say then that it's like this is like the final years, like the industry's dying. And that was in like the 70s.
Yeah.
And I feel like obviously it's very different for then. Like it's crazy. They're like the industry's dying, but then at the end of that film he gets given 3,000 £3,000 for one article. So that's not happening anymore. But yeah, it's strange and it's like it is kind of scary coming to an industry like that's like very different and like you are watching like magazines struggle like day after day after day. And it's like it's not even just like obviously physical media is a big part of it, but it's like the digital landscape is like so difficult. And like things like Google prioritizing AI makes a big difference. And like it is scary, but then it's also just another symptom of like the arts not being respected or like adequately funded, or the money in any kind of arts industry, but especially in music, just being in the complete wrong places. Somewhere in music, there's a lot of money, but it's like it's not getting to artists, it's not getting to venues. So it's like it's just in the wrong place. And then there's a lot of people fighting to get it redistributed to the right places, but it's scary feeling like you're trying to hold on while that happens. And like I think especially with gig wise, again, I just like there's so many people in any kind of creative field who have the insane privilege of growing up or living in and near London. Like at the end of Gigwise, when I was like also just being like, maybe I'll just go fully freelance and I'll be a freelance journalist and I'll make this work. It was like this thing of like, oh my God, but if I don't make this work, I'm going to have to completely move out of this city and I'm going to have to leave all my friends and I'm going to have to go back to Stockton and then back to that thing of like, okay, cool. So then how would I ever get back out? And like, it's hard when like you're trying to work in a space where like your peers or like realistically people you're competing against have this added benefit where like yeah they're also trying to like earn money and build a career, but they don't have to consider things like I need to be able to pay my rent, and like if I can't pay my rent I'm gonna have to fully leave. Like having the easy access must make everything so much easier.
So much easier. And I also think even people who grew up in London or around London and the access to the arts that they have, that in the north you just do not have. Even obviously Manchester now is an amazing city. Like there's so much going on there now, and a lot of the major cities do, but there's still, how do people get there? If you don't have a car in the north, like you literally can't go. If you're
Yeah.
younger than the age of 16 and your parents aren't interested in going to gigs or to the theatre or even to cinema, like how do kids like get around and experience these things?
Yeah.
Like you just can't.
Like I think about my career and I think about like the amount of money I have burnt doing internships. Like doing internships where they weren't paying me. I had to fork out all this money to go to London to do like a week-long free labor for them. And it's like I've been very lucky in that like I've had family who have like rallied to pay for a week's accommodation in London. But even still, it's like it's insane that I came out of an internship like with less money. I came out it's like, yeah, I had the ability to go and do it, but like for every one person that can do that, there's like however many countless others that can't. And it's like if you just win, like I don't want to say the lottery because it's like I'm very happy that I grew up in Stockton and like I wouldn't want to be from the south anyway. But like if you've grown up in London, you don't have to pay for that internship. Like you've completely broken even and you can say yes to a lot more stuff. Whereas I had to like consider if I could do that and be selective. And it's like, yeah, it's super exciting when you like get offered an internship and you like win the spot on like the internship. But then it's like it does kind of dampen it when you then have to be like, cool, how am I going to afford to relocate to London for a week, 2 weeks, a whole summer when like I don't know anyone there who can put me up? And also like how am I like deciding on the benefit between this internship and the however much money I'm going to spend to go and do it? Like, is it even valuable enough?
Yeah, exactly. What kind of internships were you doing?
I did one journalism internship between like second and third year, first and second year of uni. And then between second and third year, I did like a whole summer marketing internship, which they paid me. So that was great.
That's
They
good.
paid me like an actual salary, so I could semi afford to do that and like break
Mm.
even slightly. But yeah, it's like you say, it's like if you're born in London, not only do you just have access to more, like I wonder maybe if I'd been born in London, like I would have pieced together the fact that like I could have a job in something like art or music sooner than like Stockton, like it doesn't really even have a music scene. Like it's developing one, like again, because there was like all the venues shut. So it's like pretty hard to get super inspired there. Whereas like if you live in London, you have access to all those things. And also you're probably like tops an hour journey from the office of
Oh yeah,
you want to work at. So it's like it's a lot simpler than being in Stockton, being like, I don't know how any of this is going to work.
exactly. There's also that thing as well of you want to move to London because that's you think that's your only way to get into like a creative field when you live somewhere up north. Like internship ends and it's like, okay, well now I just have to go back.
Mm.
And then what? Find another one? Or like it's just so hard. Like I think it depends how much you're able to like travel and stuff when you're younger too. So like I'm from Hull and I was very lucky, like still managed to go on holiday. Like my mum would sometimes would go to London to see a show. Like it never occurred to me once that you could actually go outside of even Yorkshire. Like when I went to uni, I was like, I've got to get out of Hull. I went to Leeds. I went to the city over. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly.
You don't even consider it. Like because everything's so disconnected, like you don't even know what's going on in your own county, never mind in your own in like the whole of the UK and down south. You don't even know it.
When it came, I was kind of the same. Like when it came to applying for unis, I didn't apply for a single uni outside of the north, which is weird. Being someone who forever was like, I'm gonna spread my wings from this place. Like I'm gonna go so far away. But actually, I went to Sheffield. Like I
Yeah.
didn't go that far realistically. But it's like it's like it is a huge thing. Like
It
you're
seems
going
so
so
far. It seems so far. Like you said, like from Sheffield to Stockton, like you'd still be spending like 40, 50 quid on a train
yeah,
because they don't get me started on this whole thing. But the North is so terribly connected
yeah.
anyway. So not only is the North doesn't have the same opportunities that London or surrounding areas of London have, it's also really hard just to even get from city to city.
Mm.
Like loads of stuff's happening in Manchester now, which is amazing. Well, Leeds, based on just doing up north, like there's so much sick stuff happening in all these cities, but how do people get there or even hear about it? It's just,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's weird because it's like, yeah, like people hearing about it, it's like I almost feel like I'm like Sheffield's number one fan. Like I love Sheffield. I'm such a huge fan of the city of Sheffield. And I think again that was a place that was like so it was like it was bound to be formative because I went to uni there. But like it was the first time I'd ever really been around like a very clear music scene where I
Hmm.
was going to the same venues all the time and I was seeing the same bands and I was like meeting people who also cared about this stuff. And like, I think everyone, it's such an incredible scene of people and like across music, film, art, writing. But it's like, it's very much a city like in the shadows. And like, I
It
think
is.
even Sheffield is kind of in the shadow of Manchester. And like, how do you shout enough about the things that are happening there? And then I think about Sheffield, and then it's like, if Sheffield can't even do that, like what hope has like Middlesbrough got? So then it's the thing of no wonder people feel pushed out of like smaller northern cities towards London, which is weird as someone who like I love living in London and I'm very glad I made the move. But at the same time, I still feel angry about the fact that like so many people from the north feel like they have to go to London. And I still feel angry about the fact that it's like realistically they kind of do because like industries don't match up in the north.
No, the dirt. Like the whole point of up north again is like it's just surely after some time of people shouting about all the things they're doing in different cities, like you would hope that it would eventually snowball into something where opportunities are then made.
Mm.
But you were right, like people are pushed out of where they're from. Like you see, you went from Stockton to Sheffield, so you kind of went Stockton, Sheffield, and like obviously down to London. Like I moved to London for a few years. I was there for 4 years, and we moved back like kind of COVID time. And I don't think if COVID happened, I don't think we would have made. I don't think we didn't have a plan to leave London, to be honest. Like until like that last year of us being there during COVID, like we'd never even really discussed it. So would we still be there? I don't know, but
Yeah.
like it's this thing as well of how many northerners move to London but can't make a life there, can't afford it, and just end up having to move back anyway.
Oh my God, yeah. In that, like, how on earth people affording houses here? No one knows. But then, even in terms of like support network, like, one of the things that I think I've found hardest moving here is the fact that I'm literally the only member of my family who doesn't live in Middlesbrough. So it's like, I'm the only person far away. So, like, with like my niece, it's like I'm the only person who's not like right there to see her grow up. Or like I'm the person who like with there's like big family plans, I would have to either travel or I can't make it. And like it is hard like being away from family. And then like you say, it's like when you think about the future, it's just like where do I land? Because then, yeah, it's like I even think about it, like I don't even know if I want kids, but like I think about it in the way of if I was to have kids, it would probably make more sense to move back to the north for like support. But then I get in my head and I'm like, okay, cool. But then am I just denying my kids access to the opportunities I've spent my whole life wishing I had? It's
Hmm.
crazy to have to think about these things.
In the UK, it just is not doable. Like getting to London,
Mm.
even from major cities like Manchester, is atrocious. Like,
It's crazy. It's just like, when will the day come that everything is more connected? It's like they announced today that like the Mercury Awards, which is like one of the big music prizes, and has always previously been held in London, is going to be held in Newcastle this year, which like exciting, but then it's kind of funny to me to think about like the whole industry getting on a train,
yeah, like
getting on
how
the
is that
train.
actually going to work?
And I'm like, good luck, buy your tickets now, guys. It's gonna be pretty pricey by the time that comes around. Yeah, kind of
You're gonna
everyone,
have to all pitch in for a coach and
honestly,
get a coach up.
the lack of infrastructure is going to be really exciting to witness. But it's hard because it's like you want people to get up there. And like I went back to Middlesbrough end of last year for a festival called Twisterella. And it's like I was there and I felt so proud and excited and like it was so nice to see like local bands, but then also it was really nice to see bands that I like knew from London or from wherever, like all up there. But it's the thing of like shining the light on up there and like the trickiness of wanting to do that while also being like, okay, cool, like I want to do that, but I kind of have to be here. And like, yeah, the balance of like hometown pride and also making your own career work and like doing what you want to do, sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well with things like so when there's like festivals like that in these towns that don't have
Mm.
as I have been to Middlesbrough, it was absolutely years ago. It's like when I was at uni. So I've only been once. So I don't know if this is the case, but like when I think about Hull, like ages ago, like I think it was BBC's like Big Weekender, is it called? I can't remember
Yeah,
the name of it. Is it Big Weekender? Big
yeah.
something like that. That was in, but it was actually like everyone had to get like a coach out of Hull to like a bit where there was like a big field that
Yeah.
the festival could be in. So it was Hull, but not really. And I just remember thinking like, there's all these people here who the thing of of the Weekender is that like most people who get tickets have to be like from the area. I think, or it used to be that way. I'm not sure if that's the case, but I was thinking like all these artists who are coming, I'm like, where are they going after? Where, do you know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
my
what are
God.
they doing? Are they going on nights out?
They literally hosted it in Middlesbrough once, and then I saw pictures of like Miley Cyrus out in Middlesbrough. I was like,
So many-
what's happening? It's kind of laughable, but then also it's like it's great. Like it was great getting the free tickets because you have the postcode, but at the same time, it was like sometimes stuff like that just feels really tokenistic, where it's like, oh, we're gonna come to Middlesbrough for
Yeah,
once, or like we're gonna go to Hull. It's like,
yeah.
but there's no level. It's not like the BBC are being like, we're gonna come to these cities and we're gonna put some more funding behind it.
Yeah, or we're gonna like do shows at venues, like
Yeah.
pay for like yeah,
Same time, it's like they do that and then they cut the funding to like BBC Introducing in the North. So like it's like I remember the specifics, but like they cut the funding for loads of the pockets of BBC Introducing to make it more like on. So whereas before there would have been like BBC Introducing Sheffield, BBC Introducing Doncaster, like all of these like smaller
hmm
towns, they just mushed them all together. So it's now like BBC Introducing and then like a bigger area. So obviously there's
Right.
less opportunity for people there. It's like it makes it harder to be seen, which is completely counterproductive. But then they like come to Middlesbrough and bring Miley Cyrus, and I like,
Yeah, because like, what does that actually do for the city?
mm,
Nothing, actually, when you think
yeah,
about it. Not really. A funny story to tell,
exactly.
and that's it. And there's actually no legacy left behind it. I
Yeah,
was going to ask you about like the music scene and stuff where you're from, but obviously you've touched on that a little bit. Like, you say Stockton doesn't really have, didn't
yeah,
have one, or doesn't really have one still.
no, like it's there are some like incredible artists from the area, but it's like any kind of
Mm.
realistically like any kind of small town, it's like it's completely let down by the fact that like it's really hard for a venue to stay open. Like
hmm
a lot of the venues that I went to when I was younger don't exist anymore. But
Really?
then I do think at the same time, it's like, I think a lot about this one night out I had in Darlington, where it was like this gig and it wasn't a venue. You got sent a postcode and it was like a shed on an industrial estate. And I feel like that was like such a moment for me where I was like, whoa, music's so cool. Like,
That is quite cool.
it was so fun. And like I've like always had a real thing for like gigs like that and just like small local bands where I feel like that one night in Darlington really made me love music all that much more. But if, in general, like the kind of like Darlington was like the town over, but I always looked at the college that was there as like the cool creative college. Like my college was very academic. And I think it wasn't until I started like going out there and like hanging out with people who went to that college where it was more artistic that I felt like someone had been like, you're creative too. Like I think before that,
Yeah.
I felt like I was just good at English in school.
Yeah, definitely grew up with the internet, so that's a little bit different. Like Tumblr and things like that were very formative. MySpace for me was like game changer when it came to like finding like people who were into the same stuff as me.
Mhm.
But it can be really hard for. I went to a fairly big high school, but I always think like there must be people from the north who go to these like much smaller schools, and they might be the only person in
Mm.
their class or whatever who are into a certain type of music. So like, who do they go to gigs with and things like that? It just doesn't
Yeah.
exist.
And I think like sometimes you do just need someone to like dream with or like someone
Yeah,
to tell you that like things exist or like that you can do stuff. In that I think like I didn't know I could be a music journalist because I didn't know that that was really a thing. And like I had friends that also liked music, but like I didn't have friends who like also wanted to write about music or like I didn't have friends who were like writers really. So I think I just for a long time I don't know. I think I like for a long time secretly felt like I was a writer and like I was like I wanted to be like an artist and a creative, but like you say, I didn't have those friends, and also I was at school at like a very academic school where like I didn't, and again, like that would be so weird of me to say. Like the northern way of like, I don't think I would have been in my Stockton high school being like, I actually am just such a creative, like
Yeah.
such an artist. You guys wouldn't understand me.
Yeah.
I
It's the
think,
whole thing of like fitting in and stuff as well, though. There's
yeah,
that too.
I think I was just shy and also I didn't know if I was allowed to say that and I was waiting for permission, but when you are from like a small area, like no one's gonna give you that because like no, you don't know the people who can. Maybe you are lucky that you do. Like it's strange, but then I think about like people I really look up to or have come to admire. Even like part of the reason I became so obsessed with like the Chelsea Hotel was because of Patti Smith and like reading her book where she grew up in like this tiny town had that same feeling of like I think I have like I think I'm an artist and I think I have like a creative thing to be doing. I don't know how to do it. I'm gonna go and figure it out, sort of thing. So I think having people like that to look up to was like a big when I didn't really have people around me like in my town or like in my life to be that inspiration.
Yeah. It's like your person of influence, basically, Patti Smith.
Yeah, I think it had to be like someone distant and far off. But yeah, I think Patti Smith was a huge one, like, and she still is. And I think all because of that, the feeling she writes about in her book of almost like secretly for a long time being like, I want to be an artist and I want people to see me as an artist, but I don't know how to
Mm.
do that. And I don't know how to say it. And like, I don't know how to find it.
Yeah. Was this train?
This isn't just kids.
I just kids. Because I've read Beth and I always get confused as to which one is. Yeah, I actually when I read Just Kids, I was because I loved that book. I'm not I do like Patti Smith, but I'm not like, like she's like literally your person of influence. But I do find her a very interesting person for sure.
Mhm.
When I read Just Kids, I was like doing like a summer stint at a restaurant in France. It was like after my third year of uni, and I was going into like my fourth year, and me and Matt, like now husband, had just started seeing each other,
Yeah.
and he gave me Just Kids as a present to take with me. Like we'd only kissed, like we were very like early stages, and he gave me Just Kids to read. And when I was out there, because it was so hot, and I was like at like a campsite, I was always like, like outside on my breaks and stuff. The glue in the bind started to melt and like the pages started to fall out. And I was like so inspired by this book. I like wrote like stuff to my now
Mhm.
husband and like wrote him like little love letters and stuff. I didn't send them because I couldn't get to like it was like a rural place, like I couldn't
Yeah.
get them to his office, and gave them all to him when I came back on the paper that come loose. I was like, wow, I felt so poetic.
Such a romantic. No, I love that. I think it's
Yeah.
a romantic book. I was rereading
It is.
it in New York and I was like, wow, like so romantic, like not only like Patty and Robert's connection, but like so romantic in the way of like deciding to go and like pursue something bigger and like the way she
Yeah.
writes about like that is just like so inspiring to me.
Yeah. I did really like it. That's my one poetic thing I think I've ever done. Definitely.
My copy is full of notes, like it's full of like years and years and years of
Is
my notes. And
it?
it's crazy. I bought that copy for like £3.50 in like Middlesbrough HMV.
Really?
I like had never heard of her before. I liked the front cover. So I was like, oh my
I
God.
was gonna say, how did you come across Python?
Accident, like literally just liked the cover and it was cheap in the HMV in town. So I bought it. I like the first time I read it, I was kind of like, meh. And then the second time I read it, I'd like just been through my first heartbreak. Read
Yeah.
it and like it like really, really resonated with me. And then someone I didn't really know she did music. I'd never really listened to her music. And then someone bought me a CD of her like debut album. And then it's kind of been my like obsession ever since.
Wow. Do you read a lot as a writer? Like, do you love to read, or is it not something that?
I historically, yes. Right now, no. Like I've always read a lot, but lately I just can't seem to. I think because I'm writing a lot, like I'm trying to write a book, so I'm very focused in on that. In that, like sometimes when I'm reading another book, I just get like stressed. Or I think it's hard. Like I don't commute into work anymore, so it's like my reading is decontextualized. But I really want to get back into it. It's like my biggest downfall, like not reading enough and spending too much time on TikTok.
Can you talk about your book a little bit, or are you not giving too much
No,
away, or even just about the process, or like how you're finding it?
I've been working on it for like just over a year now, which has been like huge in that I think I've always said I want to write a book. Like, I think more so than like part of the reason why I've never been like, I want to be a music journalist is because I never wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to be a writer and I wanted to write books. And like, I spent my childhood like writing mini novels and stories. And like, I've always known that I wanted to do something with words and ideally write a book. But starting something like that is so scary and it takes a long time to find the commitment and the confidence. And then I finally found it last year and was like, I'm going to do it now. And I've been very surprised that I've stuck with it as hard as it has been. But again, it's kind of like being pushed into the deep end of something. Like I've never tried to write a book before. So I'm like feeling my way through it as I go and like trying to figure it out and also having to learn to be very patient in a way that journalism and even like when I write on Substack, like you don't have to be patient. It's very fast paced. Whereas writing a book, like something taking me a year is like kind of torture.
Yeah, I bet. What's the difference then? So like when you're writing, so when I was looking through on Far Out magazine, which by the way we've not even discussed
Mm.
yet. We haven't even got there. But yeah, when I was like looking at your works and stuff, and I was like, you publish many a day sometimes,
Yeah.
like you're publishing stuff. Like it looks very fast
Yeah,
paced.
very fast paced. Like at work, I have to write like 7 articles a day. Like it's very
Wow.
like pumping them out, which I think is like an incredible form of practice and like kind of reminds me of like my first jobs where like you don't have the option of not being in the mood. Like you have to write and you have to find a way to make it work. So I think it's given me a lot more confidence in my ability that
Hmm.
like you don't always have to like wait for the muses to strike or whatever. Like it can just be like you need to write something, so write it. But yeah, like going from something as fast paced to that, something as slow as a novel is a very strange back and forth.
Do you find it difficult, or has it been? Yeah.
Yeah, more so because it's like, yeah, it takes a long time, but also it's a very delicate process in that I've never experienced before. When I'm writing for me or I'm writing for work, it's like a one and done situation. Whereas like when you're writing something as long as a novel, it hits a point where like you change one thing and so much collapses that I've never had before. Like you have to try and like remember details you've written because if you change one thing, you've got to go back and change a lot. But I think it's nice. Like it's nice to kind of slow down and try and do something long term that
Hmm.
I never have before. And it does feel like I think it just felt like the next thing. Like I'd finally
Yeah.
managed to get a job while like I was a writer. So then I was like, okay, cool. I'm now gonna try and do what I thought like originally dreamed of doing and see if I can do that.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I'm excited for it. It
I hope I can
sounds great.
make it work. I
I'm
think,
sure you will.
yeah.
I mean, do you have to have a timeline on it? I guess you don't. You can just see where
Yeah.
it goes, can't you? And
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm like trying to remind myself of that like there's no timeline. Like I can just kind of do it for myself, but I'm hoping to not be doing it forever, sort of thing. Like
yeah.
when I was a kid, my granddad used to always like go off into his office and be like, I'm working on my book, like don't disturb me. And then when he died, we like tried to find the book. It was one page of A4. Like
No.
he's just going to hide in that office.
Yeah, what was he really doing in there? Just
That,
napping, probably.
yeah,
Just
literally. I really worry that people think that's what I'm doing, and I'm like, can't do anything this weekend, guys. Got to work on the book. I'm just like doing nothing. But I just, yeah, I don't want to do that. I want to actually make it happen.
yeah, I'm sure you will. I don't doubt that you will at all. What kind of advice would you give to someone who enjoys writing and wants to make some form of career out of it? Like, do you have any advice?
I think like a two-pronged piece of advice on being like, don't be shy. In
Hmm.
that, like, I think it was something I struggle with, like, especially if you want to get into like journalism, like you are gonna have to bug people and
Hmm.
you're gonna have to get comfortable with bugging people in a way that I am not. And like you do just have to be persistent and like ask and like be fine with repeatedly asking. But then I think my other like my maybe like my biggest piece of advice is like also don't ask for permission. In that I think something like journalism or like any kind of writing job is really hard to get into. And I think the best journalists and the best writers in any kind of writing job are people who like are a writer. And I think if it's your passion, you're going to want to write and you should write and you should find some kind of outlet that you don't have to get permission to do. Like, yeah, like having my blog or like the magazine when I was younger. And then even like when I started my Substack a couple of years ago, like having something that you don't have to wait for someone to give you a green light to write something is so great and also will make you a better writer.
Yeah.
So you'll have the practice and also will help you because you're proving your like passion as well as like your skill because you can show people it. And I think it's good. It's good to just not fall out of the habit of doing what you're trying to do and also like not tying what you want to do too tightly to like a job or like someone giving you money or permission to do it because it's what you want to do.
So just make things basically, yeah. Just
Exactly.
just do it.
Exactly that.
When I was looking at your stuff at Far Out, which is so fun, by the way, I love the article that you wrote about the brutalist and the intermission.
I love that one.
Yeah, I loved it. But I saw that you also did like a video interview with somebody. What's your process like for interviewing? Like, do you often do that? Like, I know you do a bit of a mix, don't you?
I do a lot of interviews, and I think like when I got started in music journalism, interviewing came like super quick. Like that was kind of one of the first things I did. And I used to be so scared, but I think like I don't like I prepare obviously, but I try not to write questions, like which is something that I got told quite early on and like ignored for a long time. But I think like I try not to write questions and instead just have like talking points and then trust the flow of a conversation. Because I think otherwise you can get super caught up in, oh my God, I haven't written this question. So like I've failed. Whereas if you just like listen and do follow-up questions, like you're more likely to hit a good outcome. Because like the aim is to get someone talking about something they're excited about. And I think if you're being too strict on it, you're not going to get the type of conversation you want or need.
Yeah, for sure. No, that makes sense. I'll write the advice down. Thank you, Lucy.
But you can, this has been, it's weird being on the other side of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, how does that feel? It doesn't feel like this isn't an interview, though. This isn't really. It's more, well, I guess kind of it is. But like, we didn't prepare questions or anything. Because I agree. I think that's like the nicest way to like to chat with someone and yeah, get the best out of it. Do you like doing interviews with people, or do you prefer like because you do reviews and stuff as well, don't you? And
no, I do love doing interviews with people, like especially like an artist that I really like and admire, or someone like I've done a couple where I've had the opportunity to like interview the same person repeatedly
that's
throughout
nice.
across like years, or I've like come back to them for the next album cycle. And I like that because it feels supernatural. What I don't super love is when you're thrown into an interview with someone that you don't like, you're not that familiar with their career, or it's really last minute. But I think again, that's just because that's such a strange way to be having a conversation with someone. Like to feel odd and scared is not how you would feel in like a normal interaction. So you're not going to get to have the like natural flowing conversation that you're aiming to have.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. Have you been like really starstruck by anyone that you've interviewed, or who's like been a really good one?
I got to interview this artist called Keaton Henson, who like I was obsessed with as a teenager. Like he was a big one, like early Tumblr days, where it was like one of the first artists that like I got super into on my own. But he like very famously like doesn't really do gigs because he has like crazy stage fright. He doesn't do interviews. Like he's very hard to access. And then I got this email one day and it was like the subject line was like to Lucy Harbron from Keaton Henson. I was like, what? And I got invited to come and interview him. and I like went to his house and I had this like really nice chat with him and like just like a perfect interview where like you're super familiar with the subject at hand and so you can kind of relax to a degree or just like have a more in-depth conversation because you're not panicking about not knowing stuff. So that was amazing. But then like literally a year to the day, I got invited back for like a next album and did the same thing, like went to his house again, had like a great conversation, but then with this strange new level of familiarity where like we'd done this before and he'd remembered liking talking to me, so had invited like me specifically back. And then he then asked me to do like a live Q&A with him for an event. And like that was so special. Like
That
it was
sounds amazing.
yeah, like getting to meet an artist you've loved for so long is like special on its own, but then to like build a relationship with them, but then have, I don't know, like the vote of confidence from someone you admire like that is incredible. Like it made me
Yeah.
feel so great and proud of myself.
That makes like me feel really proud of you. Like it's like that's like such a nice story. Like going to his house, it's quite an intimate thing really, interviewing someone.
Mm.
But doing it in person at their house and then being asked to go back, like
Yeah, like whole
that's
new
like a really cool story to
yeah.
tell and a really nice memory.
Yeah, like very special. Because I think as well, like it's weird in that like I'm still such a huge like fan of
Yeah.
like not even just him, like I'm just such a huge music fan in that like I get like excited and starstruck and like I'm still always like, oh my God, this is so crazy in a way that like I think sometimes other people in the industry and like so often like men in the industry who like see women's like excitement as like
Mm.
embarrassing or like pathetic or like not professional or serious. Like, yeah, sometimes when I'm super excited about something, it makes me feel shy and weird. But then also there is still a level where like when you're meeting someone like that you've been a fan of for a long time, there's always a fear that they're gonna let you down. And then
Yeah.
like you don't, it's like the meet your heroes thing. You don't want to then end up having just this really strange interaction with them where like you've interviewed them and you haven't felt like you've done a good job. So then it kind of ruins your like love for their music or whatever. So then when you have like when I had an experience like that with Keaton, it was like my fondness towards the music is now just like 10 times higher.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a lovely story. I love that. I'm trying to think at this point if there's anything else that we haven't covered. And I do feel like we have covered most things, like your journey of getting there to where you are, all of your experiences and your thoughts about the North and the issues. The
Yeah,
issues of the North.
we've covered a lot.
One thing that made me giggle in when we were talking about idea graveyards, and you said of this like feeling of being famous.
Oh my God.
I'm intrigued to know what you mean by that.
I just
Like a
feel
concept of
yeah,
being
just
famous.
devastated. I think, yeah, like I think I've settled down now, but I think that whole Patti Smith thing of like feeling like I was an artist and I had this calling, or like she phrases it so beautifully of like hoping she had a calling and like dreading not having a calling. I think when I was like younger, I didn't understand I didn't understand what that feeling was of just wanting to like live a like fulfilling
Hmm.
creative life and feel like I was working at what I wanted to be working at. So I think I just really, really wanted to be famous. Like I thought that was the answer, and I thought that was the only way to live a creative, cool life. I think again because like I either knew people from where I was from or I was watching famous people on the internet. So I didn't really know of a in between, but I feel like everyone kind of wishes they were famous
Oh
and
yeah.
not they're lying.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I feel like as well sometimes if you're a creative person and you have a creative outlet, like there is just always this thing of like, yeah, I want it to be so cool if just like millions of people could
Yeah.
see this or read this and
Oh my God,
loved it.
yeah. You get hit with it constantly. Even like I had someone say to me once that like before I finish my book, I should really focus on building my Instagram following. And like I shouldn't, no one's gonna click on my Substack. I need to like post about it on Instagram. And like I need to try and be an influencer, and that's how I'll get a book deal. And like, but I don't want to be an influencer. I want to be a writer. And like, it's hard when you're watching influencers get book deals and you're watching audience numbers match up to like opportunity, and like the nature of the creative world is that opportunity goes to famous people or goes to people with a following because it's like guaranteed money.
Yeah.
But I think it does like muddy the water of like, I wish I was famous because I'm like, if I was famous, if I had like 1 million followers on Instagram, like everything would be easier. Like someone would give me a book deal.
Yeah. It's this thing of like the numbers coming before the opportunity, you know?
Yeah.
It's so hard.
It's
So,
just like it's never ending of a thing. And even it's like I see it in like musicians and bands, and it always like
yeah.
makes me so sad for them where like it so often comes down to like a numbers game or like a popularity game, or it's like knowing the right people, or like I said, it's like I was very lucky at the start that like I knocked on the right door and it opened. But it so often comes down to like if you know the person on the other side of that door, or like yeah, having mass followers on Instagram where like a record deal or a publishing house or someone is going to be like, they're going to be more willing to take a chance on you because you're bringing something to them other than like the risk of your talent, I guess. Like, but it is annoying. Like, yeah, being told that like before I like finish the book, I should really work on my social following, or like no one's going to want to interact with like my art because like it's harder or I don't have enough followers is rubbish. But I just don't even let myself think about it.
And honestly, I wouldn't like, because I just think, who are these people giving this advice?
Mm,
I just think, there's a quality behind the followers too. So,
mm,
like, for example, at the beginning of us having this conversation, I was talking about how I found you on TikTok, and like, I just like followed you. So I thought it was what you were posting was cool, and I liked what you were posting. Same with like Instagram. Like, I think you've got like 3,000 followers or something on Instagram at this
yeah,
time I
but
was
only
talking.
it's like the classic, like however many followers, purely because I got those followers when I was like 15. In the same way that I know so many people who like randomly on Twitter have like 15K, and it's like
Yeah.
this used to be a wanted fan account.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's very much like people my age, like I said before, like growing up and the heyday of social media. So many of us have random followers because like at one point or another this account was like something very different.
Yeah, that's funny. No, but I just feel like sometimes the lower, if I like someone's content, but they don't have like
Mm,
millions or like hundreds of thousands of followers, like, I don't care, because I just
yeah.
think, I don't know, like, I think obviously you say you got those followers when you were 15, that's not this. But I just think, how wide should it matter? Like, maybe those 3,000 followers are all like the most important people in who buy books every day. Like, how do book publishers know that, you know?
And also, it's like, I think, again, like having the insight from like seeing it happen in music,
Yeah.
it's like my worst nightmare to think that like my career would ever be like trendy. And like you see it so often, especially in music, like an artist blows up on TikTok, they get a record deal. That record deal lasts like so fleetingly because that mass amount of interest is so fleeting. And
Yeah.
then they get dropped by the record label and then their moment's over. And it's like, I don't want that to happen for me. I don't want to be like a trendy, momentary writer or creative. Like, I think in the same way that everyone wants, it's like, I want like a long career. And like, if I was to have people care about my career, I would want them to like stick it out, not like follow me in mass numbers for a brief moment and then give up on what I was doing.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't even know if we should get into the whole TikTok and music thing, because we'd probably be here for another hour and a half talking about it. But no, yeah, it is crazy.
Yeah.
Before we stop then, I guess, and by the way, I've absolutely loved talking to you. It's been so nice getting to know you, and I think you have a lovely Northeast accent also. You said
Oh,
it's not strong, but I can hear it.
thanks. It comes
I
out
can
in
hear
certain
it.
words. It pangs in certain
It's like
words.
your ers and
Yeah,
your,
the vowels.
yeah.
The vowels always get
Savile.
me.
Yeah, yeah. Nah, you think it's not strong, but I can tell. Yeah, I guess a northern shout outs, if you have any. People, places, events. I think you've already mentioned a couple
Yeah,
actually.
God. I think it would be like Twisterella is amazing, and the people who run it are incredible and are such supporters of the Northeast and like the scene there and the people there, and like have had amazing conversations with them on that exact same feeling of like not wanting people to feel the need to be pushed from
Yeah.
their towns to big cities. So definitely them, and like the event every year is so fun and so incredible. But then also, like Sheffield, like the whole of the Sheffield scene, the bands I met there, like have inspired me to no end. And it's strange because it's like any local scene, it's such a rotating cast
Yeah.
of bands where like members join one and it skips to the other and it switches up. But I think that like the energy of that city is always deeply inspiring. And then like again, it's like in my personal life, I genuinely feel like the northern friends I have gathered in London, where it's like everyone's been through that same thing of like wanting to forge a creative
Hmm.
career in this like strange context of doing it as a northern person, where it's like the stakes do feel higher.
Hmm.
I think like being around them is deeply inspiring. So shout out to my friends. I
I
love
love
you guys.
that. I'll snip that for you just so you can send it to them all. Yeah, amazing shout outs. Thank you. I'm gonna go to Estrella.
You
Yeah, I'm
should.
gonna go. When's it on? I assume it's a summer
Wait,
festival.
no, it's like a winter one. I want to say it's like
I assuming correctly.
October. Yeah. I want to say it was like October, maybe.
Ah, sick.
Sometime like autumn.
I'll look into it for next
Yeah.
year.
Which is kind of great because it's like, I feel like the summer's always so busy. So then it's like this late stage, like,
Yeah, that's fun that.
yeah.
I'll definitely look into it and go for sure. It sounds sick. Well, thank you so much, Lucy. So excited to follow the rest of what you're doing. People listening, go follow Lucy Harbron on Instagram, and follow Up North if you don't already. So yeah, thank you, Lucy.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, okay. Thanks so much. Bye. Hi, it's me again. Thank you so much for listening to that episode with Lucy Harbron. At the time of me recording this outro right now, she had just posted on Instagram that she's finished the first draft of her novel. So you never know, we might be getting the first novel by Lucy Harbron in our hands and reading it sooner than you think, and I'm sure we will. I thank you so much, everyone, for all of the support for the Have You Made It podcast and for Up North in general. The Have You Made It podcast is brought to you by Up North, where we're connecting creatives of the North. You can follow us on Instagram at Up North, and you can also head to our website to read all of our interviews and conversations that we're having with Northern people who are making things happen. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you next time.